That's right. I kept my promise, alright? It's this weekend. And we're back, finally, with some more Katawa Shoujo. I have not played this game in a while. I haven't played this game, I believe, since around the time... I'm pretty sure it's been like a couple of months since I've played it. The recording sessions that I've had and posted in the past couple of weeks have been from months ago. That's when they were recorded. So it's been a while. So yeah, we're on Hanako's route. We finished up Emi's route. Now we're on Hanako's route. I forget exactly what happened last time. I believe we went out to eat with her and Lily at that little restaurant there. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And remember, if you're a fan of this series or any other videos or series on my channel, then subscribe so you don't miss any of the new uploads. My body switches into auto mode, carrying my subconscious self out of bed into my uniform. As always, my bottles of pills sits on my desk, patiently, waiting for me to take them and pick out my daily dosage of medicine. 17 pills a day. Before I know it, I'm opening the door to class 33. Glad to see that I'm not the only one who seems to be a little hungover from festival weekend. Every face in the classroom looks gaunt. With the festival now over, it's as if everyone's life dreams have been achieved. With nothing left to live for, the students have relied on instincts alone to guide them to class. Or maybe I'm just reading into it too much. I slowly make my way to my seat, and it's only then that I realize why the room is so peaceful. The seats beside mine are blissfully empty. The world's loudest interpreter for the deaf has yet to arrive. Just as I'm about to sit down, the door flies open, revealing a resplendent Misha, drills bobbing from the dramatic entrance, and arms outstretched towards the sky.
Yahoo! It's all over!
I apologize also. I do this a lot in these series, but the voices are going to be changed. I can't help that. It would appear that not everyone is affected by the post-festival depression. The rest of the class glare at her, obviously thinking the same thing I am. Misha, still frozen in the doorway with her arms in the air, nervously looks around. It's obvious that she senses the foul mood, but can't work out exactly what to do. Suddenly, she jerks forward.
Hey!
As she stumbles into the classroom, she reveals Shizune, arms still extended from where she shoved Misha. Thanks for the entertainment, but shouldn't you two take your seats? Still slightly embarrassed, Misha takes a few seconds to realize she has to translate.
Oh, yeah. She can't say she's not happy with you ditching us last week. We were really busy.
Is that so? What about the stuff I already did for you two?
She says that only counts for council members. Since you declined, she doesn't owe you anything.
Misha leans closer and whispers conspiratorially into my ear.
Actually, I think she's just a little sore that you didn't spend the day with her. She's really thankful for your work last week, though.
Sensing that she's being talked about, Shizune lightly wraps her fingers on her desk until Misha turns around to face her. I can't understand any of the fast-paced signing that's going on, but from Shizune's slightly embarrassed expression and Misha's poorly contained laughter, I can guess. While this exchange is happening, the door opens again, but this time at a much more reasonable pace. Hanako quietly enters the room and pulls the door closed behind her. Peering out from under her hair, she quickly scans the classroom. Our eyes meet and she suddenly stiffens. She closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and then walks over to my desk.
Good morning, Hisao.
Oh, that was a horrible one. God, I gotta work on that. I completely forget how I did her voice.
Good morning, Hisao.
Let's leave it at that for now. Morning, Hanako. You're a little late, aren't you?
I was talking to Lily. About today.
So you've got her list then? We can leave straight after classes in that case.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to it. Hanako briefly flashes her embarrassed smile at me and then hurries off to her seat. Let's go! Alright, we're officially in, boys. We are in. During classes, it becomes apparent that it's not only the students that are a little bit despondent after the festival. Mutao simply gives us a list of exercises from the textbook and then sits behind his desk. I totally forget about the brief lunch period for a moment. Such is the banality of the day. It's mind-numbing, and everyone seems surprised when the balls... I can't read today. I'm so sorry. When the bells signal the end of the lessons. As I'm packing up my bags, Shizune and Misha flank and entrap me.
Say, Hee-chan, it's still not too late to join up. There's a lot of post-festival paperwork for us to complete.
Sorry, Misha. I've got plans. As if sensing the cue, Hanako appears behind me, holding a small bag and trying to avoid eye contact with the outside world. Misha's eyes open wide, then she bursts into laughter.
You move fast, don't you, Hee-chan? We won't disturb your date any further.
Behind the roaring Misha, I see Shizune taking far too little interest in the scene. I might be taking this the wrong way, but I think she's deliberately ignoring me. I feel a gentle tug on my shirt and turn to see Hanako's eyes fixed firmly on the floor.
Let's...
Gotcha. Shizune, Misha, I'll see you later. And I'm still not interested in joining the council.
Spoiled sport.
Misha and Shizune retreat into the hallway, happily signing to each other. Got all your stuff? Let's head off. Floods of students pour out of the school gates and onto the road into town. It's a little weird. It's almost a scene from any other high school, but the illusion fades because of the occasional wheelchair or missing limb. One thing I do notice is that nobody's alone. And, as Hanako and I pass through the gates, I notice that she closes the distance between us. Not enough to be considered close, but she certainly isn't at her usual just a little far position. I guess we're not familiar enough for her to get as close as she does with Lily. However, even though she has moved a little closer to me physically, mentally she seems to have traveled a mile. Her hands clutched around the leather straps of her bag to the point of whitening her knuckles, her head down and her mouth pursed closed. She almost looks like she's being walked to the principal's office for the first time. I try to stifle a giggle at the thought, but it's futile.
What's the matter?
I guess there's no point in hiding it. Sorry, for a second there it looked like you were getting in trouble.
What do you mean?
I think you need to relax a little. We're not going too far. It's only students around, right?
But, right.
It bothers me a little to see Hanako so worked up. And you do this every week, don't you?
Yes, with Lily.
Of course, with Lily. I wonder, has she ever left the school without her? It doesn't seem like much at first glance, but Hanako's dependence on Lily is absurdly heavy. If she can't even handle leaving the school without her, how would she have managed to survive if the two had never met? Would she have found someone else to latch onto? And what drew her to Lily? Was it her lack of eyesight, or was Lily just kind enough to lend a hand? I wonder if anyone would have fit the bill. Well, I'm here. Besides, we're not going too far. It'll be over before you know it. Hanako's knuckles slowly regain their color as she tries to hide a small smile, but the effort of that seems to prevent further conversation. We travel, side by side, down the winding road towards the town. The crowds of students thins as we continue along the sidewalk. Faster students rush ahead, and the less mobile ones fall behind, rarefying the crowd into nothingness. By the time we reach the convenience store, we're practically alone. Using me as a shield between herself and the attendant, Hanako moves through the narrow aisles, adding an assortment of items to her basket. Bread, milk, tea, thyme? I don't know if that's pronounced thyme or thyme or what. What kind of convenience store sells herbs? Then again, nothing about this town seems normal, which may not be such a bad thing in retrospect. Everything is so different and uncomfortable. Dwelling in such matters isn't really an option. When I think about that, it reminds me of Hanako. No matter how much you try, you can't escape her scars. They still interrupt my train of thought when I see them. As much as I don't want to admit it to myself, I think I'm forcing myself to try to ignore them. Not that I'm scarfy myself. The jagged line down my sternum will never completely fade away. I just have the luxury of being able to hide it easily. But in a way, both of our scars remind me that we're all in this place for a reason. Hanako throws one last item into her basket, then sheepishly holds it out to me, along with a few banknotes.
Could you please?
It takes me a second to understand what she's trying to say. Oh, you want me to pay for this? She nods, but doesn't look up. I guess this task falls to Lily on the usual occasions. Sure, let me just grab a couple of things. Hastily, I grab a few essential items for myself and head for the counter with Hanako in close tow. The attendant gives me an indifferent nod as he scans in the items. I suppose just ignoring us is one way to deal with the anomalies of Yumeko. They must get a lot of students here, being the closest store to the school. The staff must all have their own way of dealing with us. Or maybe they don't. Maybe it's only me who thinks twice about my unique schoolmates. Our transaction complete, Hanako and I head back out onto the street. The road is pretty much abandoned now. The students that were heading out have already left, and nobody's started returning just yet. And, with only the school ahead on the road, there doesn't seem to be anyone else around. The emptiness certainly reflects on Hanako, her arms by her sides, each carrying a bag, her head no longer bowed, and back to the upright position. It's almost as if she were enjoying this walk. So, why all these weird things? Mixed spice? Why would you ever need that in school?
I sometimes like to make food.
Well, yeah, so do I, but spices? That's a little more advanced, don't you think?
Not really.
Well, I think it's cool. You'll have to teach me one day.
Sure.
She doesn't seem all that sure, but pushing the point doesn't seem all that wise. At the very least, she seems a great deal happier than she did on the walk down here. That alone makes me a little happier. Outside the girls' dorm, Hanako and I sort out the grocery bags with our respective purchases. In comparison, my things look positively plain. I tell you, you're putting me to shame here.
No, I'm not. I'm
only joking. I have a stack of homework that I skipped last week, so I gotta leave now. Will you be alright getting back to your room?
Yeah.
Sure? Alright then. See you tomorrow.
But bye.
We part ways and I return to my room. Piles of papers sit upon my desk, begging to be completed. With the entire ruckus of last week, I've barely had any time to catch up. I tried to keep up with my studies while I was in the hospital, but some of this stuff I've never seen before, even back in my old school. Totally unprepared, I pop the top on a can of drink and get to work. There it is. Alright, we're gonna do another one. Don't worry. Ugh. That's always been something I've thought about. Like, what is the respectful thing to do? Like, do you acknowledge the fact that, oh, you clearly have, like, a disability of sorts, or do you ignore it? You know, you're always told that, hey, it's not polite to stare, but isn't it just as disrespectful to pretend that it's not there when it clearly is, you know? I feel like it's such a tight rope to walk in that respect. The days are really starting to heat up. This morning I woke covered in sweat. By the time the student body starts leaving their dorms for breakfast and morning duties, the sun has taken full effect. Oddly, that puts me in high spirits. It's not even 8, yet I feel like this day is going to be one of those pleasant, tranquil, warm ones. If I weren't at a school that considered every absence from class as a sign of a life-threatening situation, I'd consider skipping the whole day and just relaxing in the school gardens. Yes, today will be a genuinely lazy day. For a second, I stop in mid-stretch and consider the nurse's warning about exercise. Maybe I should have kept up those morning jogs. Running with someone like Emmy might have been a little testing, but I've worked at my own pace. Who am I kidding? I couldn't stick to something like that without some kind of motivation. It's not like I sit around all day. The walk to and from the convenience store counts as exercise, right? Especially the walk back up the hill. Okay. So yeah, because that's cool how they kind of like throw in the mix there. Like, oh, if I was with Emmy, but I would need motivation. Which that motivation would have just been being with Emmy. Yeah, it's no big deal. Compared to a month lying in a hospital bed, I'm getting plenty of exercise. It seems that I'm not alone in my in my appreciation of the day. Nearly every member of the class is glancing through the window and into the tantalizing sky. Even the steadfast Shizune seems to lack her usual vigor for schoolwork. Misha, as brazen as ever, has even unbuttoned the top buttons of her shirt and is fanning herself with a notebook. I must have been staring, and now she's sticking her tongue out at me. However, she shows no signs of halting her efforts, nor is she trying to hide the fact. The lunch bells seem to catch everyone by surprise, and the class empties at a much slower pace than usual. The heat seems to be draining the need to rush from everyone. Well, almost everyone.
Hisao?
Hey there, Hanako. What can I do for you today? Hanako already has a bag in hand. A lunch bag in hand. I don't have to be a detective to work out where this is going.
Would you like to have lunch with us again? I brought enough for everyone.
Awesome. You don't have to be so stiff about it, though.
Right.
I take it we're going to the tea room?
Please. Lily said she'll meet us in there, so we should go ahead together.
Sounds like a plan. This heat has made me pretty hungry. Hanako breathes a sigh of relief as I gather my things together. As usual, the aura of the tea room is refreshing, feeling isolated from the rest of the world. Then again, the usual din of the school seems to be a bit subdued, most likely from laziness promoted by heat exhaustion. Hanako slowly spreads her food on the table, intently focusing on every little movement, as if she's trying to keep her mind off of other things. It's not much, but I can tell from her demeanor that she's prepared everything with utmost care. I guess Lily isn't here yet. Should we start without her?
She'll be here soon.
Hanako struggles with the lid of the container of rice. Here, let me help you with that. I take the container from Hanako's hands and try to force open the lid. Try as I might, it seems wedged shut. Let me guess, you put this in while the rice was still hot?
Yeah, I was in a rush.
I put the container on the table between us. I thought so. It looks like it's wedged shut. We'll need some hot water to get it open. But that would be a pain in here. We'd get water everywhere. Hey, Lily.
Well, in that case, how about I contribute to today's meal?
At the door, Lily smiles while holding up a bag stocked with various buns and bread rolls. I can't help but do the same.
Since you two had a change of plans because of me, I thought I would bring a little something.
Thanks, Lily. Here, let me get that for you. With a little guidance, Lily's bread assortment joins Hanako's riceless platter. I hastily make some tea to complete the picture. Well, I'm looking forward to this. As I take a bite, I notice Hanako trying her hardest not to look like she's looking at me. It's nothing special, but then again I can't really complain. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to cooking for myself. Not bad. I guess this is made with the stuff you bought yesterday?
Yes.
Hanako's eyes shot out at me, begging for some kind of feedback. Well, it was clearly worth it. Thanks, Hanako.
I wanted to show you this after yesterday.
It's okay. I was just a little surprised at the stuff you were buying.
Hanako's always liked to experiment when it comes to food. I think it's good. Most of the time.
While Lily's smile doesn't waver, the slight change in her tone tells me that things have not gone so well in the past. And it's not like Hanako has many people to sample her cooking. Hang on, was Lily waiting for me to go first? She didn't start eating until after I said it was all right. Her cheeky grin tells me that this was a deliberate action on her part. I'll have to try and work out how to get one over her in the future to make up for this. Well, it's good. And that's all that counts, right?
Right.
Lily, satisfied at not being the first to sample Hanako's creation, seems to consume the food in front of her. I find myself staring as I watch her chopsticks gently touch the plate, their tips delicately poking and tracing to quickly ascertain the positions of the food as she dexterously picks it up. One might think she were a child playing with her food if not for the situation, though she does it with such care and thoughtlessness that it's obvious that this is simply how she eats this kind of meal. Not wanting to miss out, I start filling up myself. Hanako takes a different approach, waiting until Lily and I have our hands clear before quickly snatching up her share. Before long, the containers are empty, save for the still shut rice container. Thank you, Hanako. That was filling.
No, thank you for the bread.
Yeah, it would have been a disaster if not for that.
You're both welcome. But now I must be getting back. It's far too easy to be late after eating here.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think we'll just clean up here and then head off.
Well then, good day.
Lily leaves, her cane tapping away down the quiet hallway. Hanako and I quickly pack our things and stay seated, waiting for the bell. Together, we stare out the window and into the endless azure sky. If it weren't for the pealing of the bells, I would have sworn that time had stopped. The urge to skip class rises in my gut. I shoot a glance at Hanako, who shows no signs of moving either.
Not just yet.
The interval between the warning bells and the end of lunch bells passes in the blink of an eye. We really should go. People will freak out and start a search party if we skip. Hanako sighs.
You're right.
Slowly, she rises to her feet and I follow suit. Silently, we make our way up the old stairs to the 3rd floor and then to our classroom. At the door, I take point and open the door ahead of Hanako, bowing my head in apology in advance. I'm sorry we're late, teacher. I'm greeted not by stern words, nor by an angered instruction to take my seat, but simply by the silence created by 15 or so students trying not to laugh. Muto, ever tardy, has yet to arrive. However, the fact that Hanako and I have arrived together is blatantly obvious. Make that about 14 students trying and 1 student failing.
The lovers return.
Yeah, thanks. You can calm down now. I step through the door and I realize that Hanako is firmly pressed against my back, hiding herself from the class. With my steps coming closer to my desk, she eventually breaks from me and stiffly walks to her own. Her efforts to mentally block everyone's presence from her mind are written fairly clearly on her face. Quickly checking the door for any signs of the teacher's arrival, I make a trip to Hanako's desk and whisper in her ear. Don't worry about Misha. She's always like this. I enjoyed myself today. Don't sweat it, okay? Hanako nods her head behind her folded arms, but still doesn't show her face. I yearn to stay close and console her more, but Mattel picks this exact moment to enter the class, halfway through his lecture, as if he started it in the hallway. Which, of course, is directly proportional to the charge, but inversely proportional to the square of the distance. He's so engrossed in his speech that he doesn't even notice me sneaking back into my seat from Hanako's desk. While Muto's spiel rambles on, Misha leans over to me.
The teacher may not have noticed your tardiness, but I did.
That much is obvious from the show you just put on.
I've been instructed to let you off the hook for today, but only on one condition.
Oh? And what would that be?
You have to help us this afternoon.
I crane my neck to look over Misha's shoulder. Shizune is conveniently not making eye contact with me. Fine. Just for today. I've already told you I'm not joining the council, remember?
Of course! Doing so would be considered...
She looks down at her notebook, obviously looking for her place in her script.
Under duress and has to be against regulations.
How very strange of you to be considerate of the regulations now.
Things should be done by the book. It's just that the book hasn't been written for every situation, so there are times when it can be ignored.
And yet, you two wonder why no one else wants to be in the student council. After poking her tongue out at me, Misha returns to her workbook, and we battle our way through the latter half of the school day. Before I can even stand up, Misha and Shizune have placed their hands on both my shoulders. Hey, I said I'd help out. Damn.
This is just insurance, Hisao. This is just insurance, Hisao. Insurance. Hisao?
Hanako timidly tries to leave the room by circling around us, and I suddenly remember that this is my one chance to escape. realize that this is my one chance to escape. Oh, hey Hanako, what's up?
Hey, what makes you think you've got time to chat?
Oh, relax, this won't take too long. Sorry, Hanako, you were saying?
I was going to the library and I thought...
Hanako's thumbs dance around each other and her eyes flit around the room, looking everywhere but at us.
Sorry, Hanako, but he still has to come with us. He's got work to do. Oh, but you can come too if you'd like. So, how about it, Hisao?
I've had enough work for the council already. What do you think, Hanako? Obviously, this is going to be... I'm going to go with what do you think, Hanako, because we're trying to get her route, so... I wonder... I actually kind of am curious, though, if this is where we'll eventually end up, like, if I went down Shizune's route. I've done enough work for the council already, or what do you think, Hanako? So I can either... This is going to be either going to the library with Hanako or going to the council room with Hanako. What do you say, Hanako? If we all help out, it shouldn't take long at all. Hanako's fidgeting answers my question before she can even form the words.
I really need to go.
Well, that was to be expected. Looks like it's just me and the council girls again. It's easier to resign myself to another afternoon's work in a small council office. Can I choose a different answer? Alright, looks like I'll have to reload another save. I'll catch up with you later, okay?
Okay. Right. Now that the farewells are over, it's work time.
Misha and Chizune Frog marched me to the student council office, never once letting go of my shoulders. I feel a little bit bad for ditching Hanako like this, but if this is the price of getting Misha off her back, so be it. So then, what are we up to today?
Debrief.
Huh? Isn't that supposed to happen after something?
Yup. We have to collate all the information from the festival so that Shi-chan can debrief the teachers.
Shizune drops a large pile of paperwork on the desk in front of me and smiles succulently. Succulently? Succinctly? Succinctly?
You need to sort those out into 2 piles. One for financial stuff like receipts, one for feedback, one for positive feedback, maybe one for things that look like they could be problems for next year, one for problems that probably won't be able to get fixed.
That's a few more than 2 piles.
Huh? Oh, right. Yeah, I thought it would only be 2 piles. My bad.
Right. While I'm doing this, what will you two be doing?
Well, we missed lunch because we were collecting all of these reports, so we're going to get some food.
Why didn't you just sort them out while you were collecting them? Thankfully, my self-defense mechanism kicks in and prevents me from opening my mouth and further worsening the situation.
Eh? How's that fair?
I was fretting over the unfair distribution of work so much that I didn't even notice that Shizune had kept on signing. If it weren't for Misha's outburst, I probably wouldn't have noticed it at all. Shizune seems to be delivering a fairly long string of commands to Misha, and none of them look pleasant. Reaching a conclusion, Misha signs briefly back to Shizune and then sits down at the desk next to me. Shizune waves to the both of us before disappearing out the door. What was that all about?
Shi-chan was worried that you'd get it all wrong unless you were supervised. And since she can't tell you how you're messing things up, she's making me stay. Oh, bummer. I wanted to go with Shi-chan. But she's going to bring us back some food. How good is that?
Misha's flippancy's out of this world. From down to the dumps to on top of the world over some calories. It's hard to imagine how anyone can operate at that level. Well, it could have been worse. So, what are we supposed to be doing?
Collation.
I gathered that.
Well, let's just start by making piles. We'll work out what the piles mean later.
Right. We start to separate all the papers into increasingly complex piles. At first, it's just simple categories. financial, feedback, incident reports. Then they split apart into the good and bad reports, and further still until it starts to look like we've just thrown the papers onto the desk. This is hopeless.
Huh? Why? We're doing what we were told, right?
Yeah, but it looks like we're just making a mess.
Nah, I think we got a lot done. Shitan will be able to work out the rest from here. So I think we can stop about here then.
It's almost as if Misha's common sense left the room with Shizune. Still, there's no point in arguing.
Anyway, what's the deal with you and Hanako?
Deal?
You were hanging out with her today, weren't you? Have there been any fireworks? Any gossip that you're withholding from me?
If I told you about my own circumstances, it wouldn't be gossip, would it?
I guess not.
We're just friends, I guess. Why are you so interested? I thought you and Shizune didn't like her.
It's not really like that. You know Shi-chan and Lily don't get along well. And since you can't really get Hanako away from Lily, we don't talk to her much. But that doesn't mean I can't be concerned for her.
What is there to be concerned about?
Well, she never hangs out with anyone else, right? It's no good, Hi-chan.
If Shizune and Lily dislike each other because their personalities are different, then I hate to think how Misha and Hanako would get along.
I mean, in one way or another, we're all on the same boat here, right?
Well, I guess.
This one time, when she left class halfway through, Chi-chan went to the teacher and asked what was going to be done about it. He said that every student here has special needs, and that Shi-chan shouldn't worry herself about it. Hanako never does any group work, she just runs off. Isn't that enough to be concerned about?
I guess you're right. She still hardly says a word when we're talking.
Well, that's more than I've been able to do. Shi-chan and I both tried what she started, but she got scared and ran off.
I consider telling Misha that exactly the same thing happened with me, but she seems caught up in the thought. Listening to Misha without Shizune's influence is interesting.
I think she needs to realize that people here don't care what she looks like, and that she can trust us. If she could, I'd feel a lot better about her.
I think this is the longest I've watched Misha without seeing her sign. When she's with Shizune, she's constantly waving her hands about, explaining the world to Shizune. That amount of effort probably places a strain on even an agile mind. And let's face it, Misha isn't the world's brightest spark. Well, I'll keep an eye on her for you. But you should probably apologize for earlier. I don't think Hanako's cut out for that kind of joke.
Oh? Oh! I didn't even notice. Sorry.
Don't say it to me. Just mention it to her.
Alright, first thing tomorrow. I'll speak to her.
Good. A cacophony from the door heralds the return of Shizune. I guess you can't really tell how much noise she's making.
Oh, Shi-chan, you're back.
Shizune appears completely laden with goods from the convenience store.
There was some surplus left from the festival. Since this is officially festival business, I've splurged a little. Nice idea, Shi-chan. 10 points.
Is that really allowed?
For someone who refuses to join us, you seem to take an unhealthy interest in the politics of this council. I shall punish you for your insolence by rationing your portion of the feast.
Fine, I get it. Misha slides the multiple stacks of papers to one side to make room for the avalanche of food Shizune is spreading out. As I watch my hard yet misdirected work become wasted, I realize that it's little wonder why these two need help. The convenience store meal isn't overly tasty, but at the very least it's filling.
Thanks for helping us today. Most of the time we just make up the reports for the staff. This year we can at least make up some relevant headings in the debrief.
Are you sure this isn't a corrupt organization?
Not at all, not at all. We're by the book. It's not our fault if the book isn't specific enough.
I thought that was the definition of corruption.
You think too much.
You know what? You're probably right. Anyway, I gotta go. That is, if I'm allowed to leave.
Your work has been deemed sufficient. You may leave.
Well, thanks. You know, if you stress the free meal side of things over the endless workload side, you'd probably end up with more recruits.
You might just have a point.
Well, think about it. And think about what we talked about. You don't have to tell that to Shizune if you don't want.
What? Oh, right. I'll try to see her tomorrow. Good night, Hichan.
Night, Misha. Shizune. Nice. So let's save here. And what I want to do is try and go back to that option and see what happens when I pick the other route. Hey, Shizune, I know I said I'd help, but I forgot that I'd already made plans. Besides, I helped out more than my fair share last week, didn't I? I promise I'll make it up to you some other time. Shizune and Misha release their grip on me and have a long, deep, and silent conversation.
Well, you have a point there. To be honest, we were only going to spend the rest of our budget on cakes. So if you're not there, it works out better. More cakes for us.
Shizune about faces and marches out the door, and Misha skips out after her. Well, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Last week those two were like bloodhounds, or prison guards. Or maybe prison guards bred from bloodhounds. I can't believe I just thought that, let alone saying it out loud. I think I need to move away from Kenji. Never mind. Anyway, should we go to the library?
Sure.
Hanako follows me through the still crowded halls to the library, using me as a shield. As soon as we're through the door, Hanako bolts for the counter where Yuko is stacking books. Before I can catch up, Hanako has whispered something to her.
You'd find that nonfiction, but I don't know where exactly. If you want, I can look it up. Never mind.
Hey, Yuko. What's all this about?
Oh, Isao. Hanako was just looking for a book on... nothing.
Book on nothing? In the nonfiction section?
I was just...
I shoot a glance at Yuko. She looks like she's about to burst from the pressure of keeping Hanako's request secret. Yuko, what did...
Chess! She's looking for a chess book.
I make a mental note never to entrust Yuko with any important information.
Yuko... I'm sorry, Hanako. It just slipped out.
Well, it's not a secret anymore. Come on, I'll give you a hand. I should really brush up on my skills too.
Oh, okay.
Yuko disappears behind the counter in shame as Hanako and I wander into the depths of the nonfiction section. I know there's supposed to be a system for categorizing these books, but I don't see how anyone can decipher it without spending half of their life researching it. That's probably why all the librarians I know are neurotic. Towards the end of the aisle, between a book on card tricks and some book on kids' games, stands a single book bearing the title, Chess Tactics for Champions. Before I can reach for it, Hanako has the book in her hands, clutching it to her chest. Well, I guess that's yours then. Mind if I borrow it when you're finished?
Sure. I just haven't really played against anyone but Lily before, so I thought...
Damn, it's not like I was trying to beat Hanako deliberately or anything, but she seems to have taken it to heart. Then again, I guess at least this means she wants to play me again. And that's a plus, right? Well, it's not like I'm a master or anything. I just played a bit before. It occurs to me that I haven't told Hanako about my condition. I falter for a second, deciding to cover my tracks. That's a conversation for another day. Before I came here.
Are you alright?
Yeah, I was just remembering something. When I think about it, I shouldn't be afraid to tell Hanako about my condition and my time spent in the hospital. Judging by her scars, she probably spent a fair amount of time in the hospital bed too. But for some reason, I can't bring it up. At least not today, and not on short notice. Eager to break off the conversation, I grab a random book from the shelf. It's some book on the world's fastest roller coasters, published in 1982. Well, not very up to date, but it should at least be interesting. Well, we both got books now. Should we sit down? Hanako seems to accept my bluff, and we head to the reading nook in the back of the library. Neither of us says a word. We simply open our books and start reading. I try to read my book, but it would seem that in 1982, roller coasters weren't nearly as large as the ones built in the decades since. Most of the ones listed are made out of wood. Something about that doesn't seem safe to me. If I'm going to ride on something potentially dangerous, I don't want I want it to be made out of steel or some kind of space-age alloy that has big words like titanium and ruthenium. I quickly lose interest, and my eyes wander across the reading area to rest on Hanako. Hanako seems absorbed in her book, flicking back and forth through the pages as if confirming what she just read. I wonder if that's actually effective, or if she's just overloading herself. She unconsciously brushes her hair from her face, temporarily revealing her scar tissue. I'm not sure about the protocol here. Is it right to ask her about her scars, or her past? How long was she in the hospital? Does she still visit the doctor? These all seem like the questions that you'd ask someone who just transferred to your school, translated into the local language. But to date, no one has directly asked me any of them. Well, except Rin, but I don't think I should use her as a guide to proper social behavior. For the time being, I just keep my mouth shut. If someone wants you to know something, then they'll tell you. Trying to force the issue might drive Hanako back into herself.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have to close the library now.
Already? I checked my watch. Somehow, as I was lost in thought, nearly 2 hours have passed.
Do you want to check out those books? I can do it on the way out.
Excuse me.
Please.
I'm done. I'll drop this one back on the way through. It wasn't as interesting as I first thought. Hanako marks her place with a slip of paper and stands up. The girls head to the counter and I return my book to what I think is the right shelf. Yuko scans Hanako's book with practiced precision, yet still manages to fumble it.
Oh, there we go. That I'm lucky. Since this is a non-fiction book, you can only have it for a week. That's okay.
Yuko shuts down the library's computer and herds us out the door.
I didn't think it was this late already.
But you're the one who told us you had to close.
Yes, but I know, but that was before I looked at the time. I'll see you later.
Yuko boats down the hallway, her handbag trailing behind her like an awkward streamer. I guess all librarians really are neurotic.
Huh?
Never mind. I was just thinking that I've never met a librarian that can organize their time, no matter how good they are with books.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Hanako smiles in amusement. It wasn't meant to be a joke, but I must have reminded her of some other librarian, or something.
I have to get back.
Yeah, me too. I didn't realize it was this late. Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
No problem.
I'm gonna go to my dormitory now anyways, so do you mind if I tag along?
Okay.
So the other option where you say, what do you think, Hanako, and go with the student council members seems to be the option to get the good ending. So we're going to finish this up, but in the next episode, we will continue with the previous option. Hanako sets off ahead of me, and I need to jog a little to reach her side. We walk through the gardens, eventually arriving in front of the dorm buildings. Man, you walk pretty fast. I used to play in a soccer club, and you managed to outpace me. I kind of regret saying that. It has less to do with her pace than the fact that my condition is significantly worse than my fitness. Hanako's reaction is odd. I expected an awkward attempt to downplay her walking speed, but she just blushes while looking at her feet and smiling. Silence hangs in the air between us. That happens often around Hanako, but feels slightly different than usual this time. After a few seconds, I try to break the silence. Here you go. See you in class tomorrow?
Sure.
Hanako waves a short goodbye before pushing her way through the dorm's doors. I stand and look at them for a while, before making my way back to my own dormitory room. So yeah, back to what I was saying, that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed this game, because it's something where those slight differences in options, because I would think, spending more time with Lily, or with Hanako is the best way to get to her good ending, right? While going off with the student council is probably the not so good ending. But with Emmy kind of getting the good ending was basically getting her to open up to us. So for her route, sure, the best way to do that would be to try and get as close to her as possible, spend as much time with her as possible, stuff like that, in order to get her to really open up with us about, her past, how, her emotions and stuff like that. while with Hanako, that may not be the best approach. Maybe the best approach to get to the good ending is to try and get more people to get close to her as well, to try and introduce her to other people so she kind of breaks out of that shyness and awkwardness and introvertedness. That maybe that's what leads to the good ending for her. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, we're going to be continuing with the other option, which brought us to the council room. Because my theory right now, at least, is that then this next day here, Misha will go and apologize. And who knows, maybe that'll spark some kind of friendship. So we'll just have to see. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this time. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video. And tell me in the comment section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video and this series or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one.